Howdy. In this video I want to show you OpenPaw, which is my version of OpenClaw that I built a few months ago, and I'm just trying to jump back into it to see how it is. I'm going to walk you through how to use it. If you go to openpaw.wynter.ai, you can see all about it, and if you go to screenshots, then you can just jump in to see what it looks like. And if you don't like the color, go ahead and change the color to suit your needs. So we're going to go with this color, and then it's really quick to install, but you do need some coding knowledge to you probably need things set up on your computer, but I'm not going to jump too much in that. But there's a whole bunch of things on how this thing works. So right now, let's just see if I can stop it. So we have a gateway agent, right? So you're going to make one main agent, and then that agent's going to control what it says to these other smaller agents, right? And in this case, they're all cats. You don't have to, but that's what they are. So we have Mittens here, and we have Atlas and Shadow, and they all talk to Pounce, and Pounce is the one that's kind of orchestrating the whole show, and it's through agent delegation. So these are just kind of concepts that you can look at, and I've taken these concepts from OpenClaw and all these other ones. I did this before, Hermes and all these other ones. I'm going to explore those, but I'm kind of learning by creating my own systems here. And then they all have tools and skills, and they can build and update, and they all have the hallmarks of these kinds of systems, which is the soul, memory, and heartbeat. So that means they have a personality, they remember things, and then the heartbeat is just essentially scheduling. So that's everything they need, and it's self-hosted. It has many tools already. You can connect to other services. And then the one thing that makes OpenPaw different is that it has dashboards. So basically it's I'm a visual person, as you can tell, so therefore I need something to look at instead of it just being here's some text, here's your update for the day, or here's something I want to build tangible dashboards, because ideally I want to have this with dashboards that are live updating, and I want the AI to be able to create these and blah 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 blah. Also browser automation, which is this is all done in Go, so which is the programming language, so it's all very fast, and it's not using any slow languages in the background or anything like that, but it does have browser automation, which means it is kind of I don't know, I wouldn't trust it for your Facebook or anything like that, but it's very simple for simple things. But either way, and then you can add your context, your skills, and your heartbeat, right? And then there's 70,000 skills from skills.sh that you can go and add in. And these concepts just apply to OpenClaw, Hermes, all of them, right? I'm not inventing too much here. I'm just kind of making these concepts and adding my own spin on it, but it's ultimately the same. So how this works is you chat with an agent, right? And that's same thing with OpenClaw and all these other ones. I'll stop saying that. You can just basically assume that if you haven't used any of the other ones, they work in a similar way. And this is kind of the foundation of how a lot of these systems are being built, and then we'll see how they transform in the future. But this is your employee, your work employees in a box kind of thing. Anyways, so you have to chat with the agent and tell it what you want to do, and that's how it can pull out information from you, right? And then you're going to talk with your gateway your agent, and then you can build a tool. So let's build a Stripe balance checker, right? So by building tools is essentially, it's kind of a skill, but by building tools, you're building almost their API connections, so they're predictable. They're not skills. Skills are markdown files that say a standard operating procedure. Here's what you have to do. Here's what you have to do next, and blah 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 blah. Whereas if you build a tool, then that means you're building an API connection that is essentially very predictable. It will run an endpoint. It'll get results. It'll do something with the results. Extremely predictable how the internet works with APIs. So that's what a tool is. So it's you can build a skill. You can also build a tool that's more hard-coded. Then you can build a dashboard. So let's say I want to output all of my finances onto a dashboard, right? Say you built tools, or you have connections to whatever, and then you need to output it instead of it just being inside of a chat. Then you put it on a dashboard, so it's a visual. You need to set heartbeat, which is another concept of all of these ones, which is a schedule. So every hour or every 10 minutes or every day, do something, check something, update something. That's kind of and be careful with stuff like that, is because that's where it costs the most money. And then your agent reports is just kind of just another kind of way to do it, right? And then so you'll get a gateway agent, then you make your own agents after that, and then it's a factory of cats. ideally, and there's a whole bunch of like little features inside, and then here's the visual of it, and just a quick reminder of like kind of like this whole territory is use with caution, only trust your own tools, do things slowly. It's all AI, so like you connect, it costs money, it could do something crazy, like it could delete a whole, like I don't know what it could do, I don't know what you're gonna ask it, right? So I would take this whole video as kind of like a way to like, okay, if I was to sit down and make my own OpenClaw, like I did, and now I have my own OpenPaw, what would you do, right? And like what decisions would you make, blah 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 blah. So there's a whole bunch of screenshots, there's documentation on like everything. This is literally, I'm the only user of this, and like look at the amount of work that I put in, and like obviously I like cats, so that made the design easier, right? So there's a whole bunch of stuff with cats all over the place. Now let's install it. So let's go here. We're going to use npx. We're just going to copy this code right here, and it's going to require Node.js. It's going to create a folder. It's going to go in that folder, and then it's going to run this, and then it's going to open it, right? And that's how and then you can just leave it running, or you can open it up every day, or whatever you need to do if you decided to use anything like this. But that's how it's going to work. I had in the past it running on a different computer and using like things to connect to it. But either way, so I'm in a folder in the terminal right now, which is what you gotta do. And then I'm going to paste this, and then it's going to create the folder, and then it's going to run all the things that it needs, and now it's going to show you this so you can connect to it on your phone if you're on the same network. And then what I'm going to do is click here and run it in the browser. So now I'm connected to the computer, and it's running OpenPaw on my computer through that one command. So there's no like installing a whole bunch of stuff. You'd run it and then you connect to it, right? So you can run this on a different computer and then do different things. But that's very advanced. This is all very much visual thing. So welcome to OpenPaw. You set up a username and a password. So Wynter, and then you have to use capital or something. It should tell you that. It will tell you that. It'll just tell you at the wrong time. Anyways, now you need an OpenRouter API key. It would be great if I could make this work with Codex and Claude code the way other ones have made it work, but right now you have to pay for everything. So you got to go over to OpenRouter, put some money in, and grab an API key. So OpenRouter.ai, put some money in there, and then grab an API key, and then continue. You don't need to worry about this unless you know what you're doing. Now you have your first agent. We're going to call it Pounce, and this is our gateway agent. So this one you can pick a bunch of different avatars. There's a bunch of bugs and stuff, like, but either way, this is just an experiment. So Pounce is going to be that guy, and you can give it, like right now, you can start giving it some kind of goal, or like kind of like, what are you building? So like building a micro SaaS network to make money, right? And then this becomes the shared goal that shapes how your agent thinks and responds, and you can change it anytime. And then we're going to, now it's created that whole setup, and now you can start using it, except for we need to start creating some agents. So you can start chatting with it, but it will give you kind of like a weird error. So you need to create an agent, right? So you click on agents down here, and then we need to create an agent. So we've already created the Pounce agent, but we need to create another one. So there is a problem here, but we'll just skip that for now. And then we're going to call this one Mittens, and it's our project manager. You are the best project manager for our apps. And then we'll just do haiku, and then you can click on here, and then you can access to the better images. Yeah, so you can auto describe. So like, yeah, so let's just go through all the different like little things that I thought was fun. So we have Mittens here. Let's save that. So Mittens, it looks like it's like a pink. This is the avatar of Mittens, right? And then what I've done here is a visual description. So I asked it to auto generate a visual description of its avatar. Why that is because it needs to know what it looks like. As I noticed in the other ones, they don't. It has no idea what itself looks like. So if it has an avatar, so therefore it has a description, you can use those two things. So when you want to ask it for like an image of something, and then you'd be like, hey, show me what you're doing, it will create you an image, and it will use that. It knows what it looks like. Anyways, you have a name, a description, and you can put in a folder, and then you can select the model. So I would select something cheap, and all that fun stuff. You can do a heartbeat, but so there's a bunch of things that each agent has. So that's knowing about itself. Soul is its persona, and it will start doing this over time. So if you chat with them and stuff, they'll like update their soul and all these other things in this background as they feel appropriate, but you can edit it at any time. So that's what it's like. Its old persona is the soul file. The user file, which is anything it learns about you, your preference, or anything that it thinks about you, will show up here. It does have a run book, so that means in this way it is like how it's going to just decide to do things, like if it has workflows and other things. So like you can just say it's kind of like a miniature skills kind of thing. So it's like a self-managed operational playbook, which is because of how I noticed it kept like doing certain things. I was like, no, like when I ask you these things and do these things, I want it to be kind of like a skill, but not as like rigid, right? So anyways, that's the run book. Lessons learned. So in case it messes up something, it will remind itself how to do things here. The boot is the first thing it looks up and be like, do I have to do anything at the start of a chat? Or the first thing to say is like, do I have to like greet you, or what do I have to do there? Your heartbeat is a periodic checklist. If it's empty, you can skip it. So that would be when you set it, whatever's here, it needs to like think about and do often. It's memory. It's a SQLite database that is going to be performant and create little snippet memories. Skills, tools, and work. So skills, text, tools are like API access, so you can add some of them and you grant access to different agents. I'll show you how to do that in a second. And then there's work, which is the backlog and progress blocked and done. So like if it's doing something and it's doing a task, it will like do that on the background and update itself. And that's part of the scheduling. The heartbeat is like, hey, every 30 minutes check where you are on these progresses, like these tasks. If so, move them forward, move them backwards, do whatever you need to do, because the idea is that you train these agents and then you set them off to work on whatever it is you need to do, and you give them the skills and the tools and everything that they need in order to perform that work, and then you train it in order to perform that at a high level. That's kind of the whole idea here when you're doing OpenClaw and Hermes, is you're trying to get to that kind of, it's kind of hard, but I'm taking that whole concept, giving them all the concepts, and that's how you would set up an agent. Okay, so now we have Pounce and we have Mittens, and now we have at least that. Now the system is actually usable. Before that, it's not really usable. Okay, and then we're gonna do tools. We're gonna set this up a little bit more before we start chatting with it. So if we have no tools, we can ask the AI to create a tool without too much work. So we're going to go to the library, and then we have the library of tools and of agents that were pre-made. So let's actually go here and let's add a pre-made agent, which is probably a bit better. So like Pepper is a creative marketing bot, and it has some pre-written things, so we're going to install that one. And then Willow, a holistic wellness companion. Why not? And then if we go back to our agents, now we have Mittens, Pepper, Willow, and they are on different models. You can see Minimax down here. These are all just cheap ones, which is good. That's what we want for now. And then we're going to go over to here for tools. So some of them don't require API keys, some of them do. So like it depends on what it is. So like the weather one, so if we click here and install the weather tool, we can install that, and then we're gonna have to give access to it. But say one that like, so we can, I do have like codec, Cloud Code and Codex, and it will use it through the CLI. It's a bit buggy, but it will at least try to be like, okay, I can run Cloud Code and do a thing inside Cloud Code and then give you the results back or do the thing. Same thing with Codex and Gemini. Let's just do one that probably requires an API key. So it requires an API key, right? So we're not going to, I'm going to just show you how that would kind of work. That actually doing it. Okay, so anyways, this one requires two. Let's do a simpler one. This one requires a bot token. So send messages, read channels, and manage stuff from a Discord bot is how you do that. Is now it says it's installed, but it needs a secret. And then in here, you have secrets, and then they're, like your environment variables, so they can't talk about them, but they can access them, but they don't know what the actual value of that secret is. They just know that it's there and that they can use it, but they don't know anything else about it. So you put it in here, and then we would associate with this tool, I guess. Yep. And then now we have the value associated with it. What's this button do? Connection test returns warnings. So that would be like your testing, and I just threw a random one in there, and it's obviously not going to work. And then that's how you would connect secrets, right? But we're going to get rid of that one. So, and then I'll show you this more, and it'll show you more information. So, like, for instance, like this one is a tool, so it's an API, so it's predictable. So that means we're going to see information about it. But if we go down, so like the integrity, so make sure that everything's good, so that someone didn't give you something and then they're lying. There's like, integrity, checking all the files, checking if their secrets are enabled, if they're not. And then the endpoints, right? So now you can actually see what's it going to do, what can it do. It can check the channels, it can check the messages, it can send a message. That's what it can do. There's no like surprises on like what it can and can't do, and that's what the bot sees. It's very predictable. It's like, hey, let's make all this very predictable. That's what a tool does, but we're going to get rid of this one because we don't need it. And then for the weather one, we don't need an API key, no secrets involved, which is awesome. See, and then it's running. We have the information here, and then there's the endpoints, so we can get the current thing and we can get the forecast. Then we might have to recompile it depending on if we're working on the tool, if it's our tool, you never know. And then restart it, disable it, and export it in case you're like doing something like that. So like that's kind of how tools are sorted. You can ask the AI to create it. Skills, you just throw the skill in there and you grab it from like, there's just text essentially. There's different ways, but it's a very shallow version of it. Library, and then the logs. So everything that you've done, that we've been doing, is all in here in case you have multiple people, right? Like this is another part of this whole AI agentic factory that you'd set up, is that you needed like some sort of like logging accountability, kind of like, when did the thing happen? How did it cost? Like say all of a sudden you wake up and it costs $200. You're like, well, how did that cost $200? Maybe there's this happens in Hermes, OpenClaw, all of them, right? You need to be able to check and monitor these things. That's what happens here. So the heartbeat, it's done differently, and like I haven't used Hermes, but I'm just gonna like go with like OpenClaw, and then it's similar, but each one has a heartbeat. So here's your agents, and then here's the executions that they've done, so that again you can audit it. So if we go to like mittens here and we turn on the heartbeat, that means now it's alive, in terms of it's going to keep, in 15 minutes from now, it's going to check that file that says, what do I got to do? And then it's going to be like, oh, I got nothing. So let's see if we click on settings here. We can do the heartbeat interval, like, how many times you want to check it, and at what time you want to set it, between 9 a.m. and 10 p.m. And then at nighttime, it never checks anything. It's never, like everything's gone to bed. So like you can do it that way. And right now, the way it's set up is that it's all of them. So we would say, hey, mittens and pepper, and then we would turn them all on. And then now we have them all going every hour, that pepper and mittens are going to do their thing. And between these times, blah, 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 blah. And then we're going to see the executions of it there. So every hour, 2 agents do the thing. And then that's how it is in OpenPaw, is that you set them all up and they all kind of do a thing every hour instead of them individually. But either way, that's kind of how that would work, right? And then there's a scheduler, which is a similar thing, but you'd select an agent and then create a chat, when a new chat run, blah, 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 daily. So now you can do this particular agent every 30 minutes. You are going to blah. You're going to check something, you're going to do something, you're going to create a daily report on a schedule. So the heartbeat is kind of like, it's alive, like, it's a robot, it's got a brain, it's doing everything, and then a heartbeat, you turn it on, now it has like some kind of autonomous, like, you can give autonomous proactive instructions, and it will start doing things and making its own tasks and its own thing to keep itself alive, to keep itself doing something. Whereas scheduler is more like, hey, this is a deliberate thing. I'm saying every day at 5 p.m. I need you to do this specific thing. Okay, so that's how that would work. these are all general concepts. Hopefully they help you in just in general understanding OpenClaw and Hermes. And by the way, I made this before I ever used OpenClaw, and I only just started using OpenClaw. Anyway, so this is all just me researching and like assuming the concepts, not really like using the software at that time. Okay, now to-do list isn't me concept. I don't know if there's not another one. So like get stuff done, do it, and then we're gonna do that. And now we can add stuff to the to-do list, like check if good, and then you can ask the agent to do to-do list as well, and which is good if you have like, okay, I need to do these things, and then you create a task list essentially, and then it can check off those task lists, and then we can associate those task lists in things, right? So and then the media, this is what it will create. So if you ask it for an image, it will create an image, and then you can also use those, access those images there. Context. So now if you're before you, so we're starting at the bottom up before we even talk to the agent. So if you want to throw a bunch of information about you, so you can write your about you section in here. You can also throw in a bunch of files and folders. So if we were to just do, I don't know, do this one. Now I have a file in there that I can click on, and this is like an idea I guess I had, and now it has this that it can do the reg search on. So you throw all your content in there as for context, and then browsers, which are like the web browser that the AI can go and use, and you can like kind of see what it's doing, except for it's not like the most robust thing in the world. And then there's the workbench, which is a terminal, so you can make a whole bunch of terminals and then change. So if you want to like, okay, I need to use the terminal, you can use it inside of OpenClaw, which is kind of like one thing that I'm experimenting. So that's your workbench. You're gonna do stuff in like Claude code or whatever, and then if you're a programmer, this is made for programmers mainly. Okay, and then I'm gonna get rid of that, and now we can chat, and then we have a thing called dashboard. There's no dashboard, so we're gonna create a dashboard, and we're gonna show you how it all works. Okay, so we're gonna say new chat, and then in a new chat, and the chat panel right here on the right hand side, we're gonna see there's no agents in the chat. There's the context, and we have access to these to-do lists, so we can do stuff on that context and those to-do lists. So we're gonna say Mittens, how are you? I need a dashboard to check the weather in Kingston, Ontario. So it's going to do some things. Now it's like when it creates a tool or needs to build something, it's always going to ask your approval in this very simple kind of way, just being like, hey, you need to click yes or no kind of way. So it's going to say, hey, I'm going to create a new dashboard, and we're going to approve the build. And now that it's been approved, it's going to run through the different things. And actually it's Pounce that's going to do that. Mittens is not. So Pounce, the gateway agent, can do things that the other agents can't do. So Pounce is going to create it, and then the Pounce is the one that creates the agents, the tools, and all the things. So that's your highest level agent, and then it will talk to these other ones. So like I'll show you how that works in a second. So once it's done the dashboard, then we can see how that is accessible and how that works. But then I can also create another chat, or in the same one, where we have multiple of these agents kind of talking. They should talk back and forth. That's the kind of idea, is that it shouldn't just be me talking to the one agent, but then I talk to the one agent, and then say the other agents there in the chat need to say something. They should say something, right? I shouldn't have to ask them to say it if they feel like they have to say it. Anyways, so it's created the dashboard. I mean the tool, it's a dashboard. So it's tested the endpoints. So it's checked the tool. It's like, hey, because the tool that it needs to create this dashboard, then that means it's got the visual and the tool, and it connects those, and now we can actually have a dynamic dashboard that's going to show the weather for today and then for tomorrow, right? And then so we can take that concept for basically anything, or it could just be simple, like, and so let's make another dashboard.
and this one's make another dashboard for nice quotes from Napoleon Hill, you know? So it will just be an uplifting kind of way, a nice design. So it's wiring up the data and it's building the forecast cards. So we can see what it's been doing here, and it did 13 calls, and and it does this like on like, you know, I have it so that when it creates a dashboard, it has its own scaffold files, it has its own process to follow, so that makes sure as much as possible that when it created the thing for you, that hopefully it actually worked the first time without having to ask for it to fix bugs. So now the dashboard, when we go to our dashboards, we have the design here, and then we can ask for it to change it and be like, I don't like this, this is bad, whatever, don't use emojis, do whatever you gotta do, you know. Maybe let's try, I'm not sure how well it will work, but maybe let's make it so that like if it's sunny, like there's something in the background. So let's just go here and say, yeah, make it so it emanates in the background. Now I'm going to see if I can edit it. Be like, hey, so now we're going to say, so let's see. Like I think in this one, let me see. So like that update. Okay, update the dashboard. Said approve and build, which is okay. So it seems like it is going to update it. I thought it was going to build a new one because, you know, bugs. So even for me as the developer of this, I was like, oh, is it gonna do it? But I think it is. So it's now it's reading everything that it builds so that it can now create the thing. So I'm happy about that. And then we're going to add a heart to that message. And yeah, this is, remember, I built all of this for me. Nobody's ever used this. I don't think a single human has ever used all this chat experience, setting up all of this stuff, doing so much work just for me to not even use it myself. Okay, so now it has everything. Now it's going to update it. I'll ask for one more dashboard, just a simple one, so you can see how you can switch, but that's not even that important. Okay, that's what we'll basically leave it at here, is that you would set up all these things, you can talk to it. Oh, we'll talk to multiple agents, and then I'm pretty sure I can open up a new chat and have multiple chats. Hey, Mittens, what do you think about Pepper and Willow being on our team? So now we have two chats going, and it reacted to it, and Mittens and Pepper, they said the same thing. That's not right. So it's I tagged them both, or tagged everybody, and everybody's like freaking out. Okay. So that happened in the bad, like it was bad UX, right? It ended up kind of where I wanted, but it was like, I don't know who's talking right now. So we have 3 agents in the thing. So Mittens was like awesome, and then Pepper was like, you're asking about me. Instead of, it's because I tagged them and was like, oh, I'm like, you know, instead of just saying Pepper and Willow, now that they're in the agent thing, so now let's ask them. So what? Now I'm going to say nothing to nobody. I'm not going to tag anybody. We have 3 agents. They're all hyper silly guys. So I'm going to say, what should we work on first today? And then Pounce is going to analyze the request. And now it's decided that Mittens needs to be the one to say something. And that is probably because Mittens is our project manager. So therefore, and then it's like, looks like your to-do list is empty. There's no pending items from yesterday. So what's on your mind? What do you want to do? let's make some to-dos on cleaning the code base for our apps. And now, again, goes through Pounce. Pounce decides who needs to say something about it, and then, you make it up. No, you Willow, and you do it. And now our dashboard is done on the sidebar here. So hopefully, we'll just finish up here. We'll just like ask Willow, and then Willow said, "Yep, I'm in. I'm ready to roll." Don't know what this is. So there's all kinds of little bugs, but right, so it's like the main idea here is to show it's like, hey, what, and like you can see in like bugs, man, like honestly, like I could do so much work on these things, and then it's like, because constant, like as soon as I see this, I have to stop, fix it, stop and fix it, stop and fix it, and then I end up with this experience, which is cool and does a whole bunch of stuff, but it is just purely for me and nobody else uses it. And so this is the best I can get of making a video to kind of like show these concepts, and hopefully something like this turns into something in the future or something. So that's what we did. We've been talking to them. It's a bit wonky, but it will decide on who needs to talk next. You can have this conversation. It might be a little bit jittery, but that's the concept of a multi-agent chat. Now we're gonna go back to our dashboard. The context is full. The AI may stop responding. So at this point, it has hit its context limit, but thankfully they're at 1 million now, so I didn't update that, so it will just keep going. So it was 200,000, now it's at 1 million, and that cost me $1.70. So $1.70. That's for anything to like remember. It's like, okay, I'm using Sonnet, so I could have used a simpler model to do it, and so like it does cost money. So that's why I wanted to make it like obvious right here, like what you're doing, so that way when that's why it's like it's cute and it's got cats and I'm trying all these things, but it really does cost money. So it's like you have to think like, okay, I'm gonna invest all my data and all these things and then set it up well and efficiently, and then I'm gonna trust that it's gonna run for 24 hours, and then I'm gonna trust that it's gonna run for multiple days, and then for a week, for a month, and then how much is that gonna cost, and like, are you sure that what it's doing is effective? Like, was it worth spending $1.70 making a dashboard for this? The animation better be worth it, because now it says that I have all kinds of animations. So it's been updated and it did all that stuff. So it looks very nice. I'm happy with all of that. Now let's go to the dashboard, and there's our animation. We're not going to be able to test anything because it needs to change the weather in order to like test this. But now, right away, I'm like, it's ugly, it's terrible, I need to change it. And then I'd spend another 30 seconds. Let's just try this. Let's try it. Let's go like this. And let's see. Let's spend a bit more. So it's gonna. I paste that in there. No, dang! I needed to make it so I can paste in images. Yeah, it's terrible. But we're not even gonna salvage. We're not even gonna salvage it. We're just gonna be like, okay. Make me a new dashboard. So now I'm just gonna say, hey, make me a like text-based one that has nothing, no tools or anything. It's just purely show me Napoleon Hill quotes in a big way, so it'll be fast, easy, and cheap to create. And then I'll show you how you can cycle through these different dashboards, and then that's kind of like how I think of it, is that you can put all this information in there, do all this stuff, set it all up, and then you also need like dashboards, so you can say, hey, I need a dashboard that shows me what you've been working on, what our plans are, all these different things, and then just cycle through the dashboards and kind of like surface all this data up there, so you can monitor the system in the visual that you want, instead of everything being in a chat box or just text, when it could be very much a visual experience the way that you want it to be. And then I'll post this on YouTube, and then and then I'll be done, and maybe one day make this fully usable. In order to make this fully usable, I actually just need to make it so that it does Codex or Claude, because
OpenRouter, it just gets expensive. It's just very expensive. I'm too cheap. I could build it all, but I can't afford it all. Okay. Almost done. Thank you very much for watching. You rock. If you could also let's go here. Oh, there's other things. So you can go to your profile, your general, notifications. You can play sound if you want to. You can do tail scale. So you can turn this on, so you can put on a different computer tail scale, and then do it that way, which I was using for a bit. The gateway model and all these other things that you can put right here in the builder model. So it does have a different like invisible model that is the builder. So when you ask it to actually do something, the gateway then talks to the builder, which can then be like Opus or like something smarter or cheaper, and that's what's doing the actual coding on the dashboards and the tools. So you probably want that to be higher or smarter, and then auto compact and design. So this one's a cool one. So this one's just a fun thing that you can do on all your software, and if you got this far, you can add a accent color to your apps, and then we can make it so that the user can pick one color and then change the whole design of the app to make it more fun. And then we can also set up a background image. So I'm going to set this one. Let's save the design, and now we have this nice big background image. Let's see, more obvious right here. And what I did here is just like a background with an overlay, right? And it's a nice little addition. Then you can choose your own background in case you have a photo of your family or whatever. I think it's a nice little thing that you can do to your software to make it more unique and customizable. So you can just make one accent color changeable. You can make the background easily changeable. You can turn off the mascot and the header here, which you really shouldn't. There's really no reason to turn off the mascot. The mascot should always be there. And then the font and font size, right? So let's make it a little bit bigger. And then the security, the system stuff, your backup. So you can back up all your data, which is like how it works is kind of fun. I'm not going to get into it, but yeah, I think actually, yeah, it'll create a repository. Okay, this one just has an automatic GitHub backup. Okay. I did do another one, and I think it was an early version of this, where it made a website, and it was just a website of stars. You wouldn't know what the heck it is, but in it has it entirely encrypted. All the data is encrypted. In the HTML, you wouldn't notice it's there, and you can't decrypt it, but it's just a star website that makes no sense. But if you link to it, then all of a sudden your data's there. Silly stuff. But yeah, there you go. Created by Wynter Jones. That's me. Danger. You can now delete all your data, delete your account. Now let's go to our dashboard, and here you go. Here's our dashboard of quotes from Napoleon Hill, right? So that's how that works. It's just essentially HTML pages with JavaScript connections, or it's just purely like that, and then we go here, and then we go back to our dashboard, see the weather, go back to our quotes, and that's how you do it, right? Is that you would have a whole bunch of these dashboards that are relevant to you in your business, and hopefully this video has been helpful to inspire you to create your own tools. Then thank you very much for watching. Bye bye. Let's see if we go back here. Is there anything? There's probably a bunch of Easter eggs. If I skipped anything, nope, got it all. Thank you very much. Bye bye.